Hi everyone, and welcome to the fourth episode of the Inside HubSpot Marketing webinar series. I'm delighted to be joined today by my colleague Siobhan McGinty. Siobhan is the Senior Marketing Manager for the DACH, French and Spanish regions and is based here in HubSpot Dublin. Siobhan is responsible for the generation of leads and MQLs, marketing qualified leads in EMEA. She has a vast experience in all things lead generation, from brainstorming, content creation, promotional plans, and even translation. She's particularly experienced at launching campaigns in different languages, and last year alone, she launched almost 80 lead gen campaigns in 3 different languages. Part of Siobhan's core strategy is co-marketing, and in this webinar today, you're going to learn how HubSpot uses lead generation, or HubSpot's lead generation team uses co-marketing to grow our database and generate highly qualified leads. And hopefully by the end of this webinar, you're going to be armed with everything you will need to select and build your own co-marketing relationships, as well as some handy tools for campaign planning. If at any stage, as always, if you would like to join in the conversation or ask us a question, please feel free to tweet us at #InsideHubSpotMarketing. We'd really love if you could get involved, or if you could put a question in the chat beside the live video. So without further ado, Siobhan, I'm going to hand it over to you.
Thanks for the intro, David. So I'm really looking forward to delivering this webinar. As David said, I run lead generation for HubSpot's growing markets. Before HubSpot, I worked at an agency, so I can completely relate to life as an agency partner. Today, I'm going to introduce the concept of co-marketing. Some of you may have heard of it before, but perhaps by a different name. For others, it will be a brand new concept. Regardless, I'm confident that you're going to learn something, or I hope so, from the content that I've prepared. Included in the webinar will be links to resources you can use for yourself, such as a Trello board template and what we call a scope of work or a co-marketing agreement template. So you should get lots of value from this hour. Our webinar agenda today will look something like this. First of all, we'll introduce the concept of co-marketing, what it is, and I'll give you some examples of it. Second, why is co-marketing so great? So hopefully that will uncover for you how valuable co-marketing can be. Finally, I'll bring you through my co-marketing process step by step. This is not a formal process that you'll find if you Google co-marketing, and this is something that I've come up with myself based on my own experience. Of course, as I go through the slides, I'll be speaking as much as I can in the context of our agency partners. So what exactly is co-marketing? Co-marketing is when 2 or more companies collaborate in the creation and promotional efforts of a co-branded offer. To give you an idea of the types of brands we here at HubSpot partner with, I put together this next slide. We've done ebooks with LinkedIn on creating great LinkedIn profiles and running LinkedIn ads. We've done ebooks with OnPage on the topic of on and off-page SEO. We've collaborated with the likes of Iconosquare on a series of ebooks and webinars on Instagram, and Scoopit on content around content marketing. As you can see, what all of these brands have in common is that they have a similar target audience to us here at HubSpot. They all target marketers. So if you're a marketing agency specializing in e-commerce marketing, think about e-commerce brands that you could collaborate with that have an audience rich in your targets. Is there a local or national e-commerce business group? Is there an official e-commerce meetup? Is there an e-commerce conference? Are there any tools available which are specific to e-commerce marketers, such as Magento or Shopify, for example? Reach out to them and see if they're open to creating a piece of content or running a webinar with you. The main thing here, and I can't overestimate this enough, is that you need to really think about and clearly define your primary buyer persona and find a brand that has a similar one to that. And here's just a snapshot of a few of the ebooks we've produced through co-marketing. So that first one there is one we did with OnPage on what is SEO. We've got one with Prezi on how to give a killer presentation to impress your boss, which is always good. One with Scoopit on getting started with content marketing, and then one with Social Bakers on the future of Facebook advertising. So then that brings us on to the next question, the question of why co-marketing. There are a number of reasons co-marketing is great. First of all, you have the potential to access a bigger untapped database. This is particularly useful if you have the goal of growing your database, and let's face it, who doesn't want to do that? We use co-marketing a lot when we're growing our regional markets in France and Germany, as our databases in these regions aren't as big as some of our more established English-speaking ones. So if we can find a leading German brand who has a strong foothold in Germany, strong credibility and a good-sized database and they're willing to co-market with us, that's a really great opportunity. And it's one of the reasons we're growing quickly in those regions. When it comes to agencies, many agencies have a strong suit or an industry focus that they're particularly strong in. For example, when I worked agency side when I lived in Australia a few years ago, we had a focus on the engineering sector. We really needed to grow our database of engineering company leads. I had to figure out ways of doing this, so I researched engineering bodies in Australia. We partnered with one of the leading primary governing engineering bodies in Australia and collaborated with them on some content for an upcoming breakfast meeting. We offered that content in exchange for business cards. This was a few years ago, so landing pages weren't as easy to create back then, but the whole concept is still the same. And that particular exercise resulted in us almost doubling the size of our database of those engineering leads. The second reason co-marketing is great is because it is a really efficient way of creating content. As marketers, and especially as agency marketers where time is money, content creation itself can take a lot of time. By finding a co-marketing partner who is skilled in content creation and willing to write or produce will mean that you will get a great return on time investment. When we work with brands, we ensure that they have a strong, proven record of content creation and brief them on our tone of voice. So a style guide is really, really important here. This works for us as it allows us to think of creative promotional tactics. With them looking after content creation, we often look after the design element, as well as the creation of landing pages, emails, social sharing images, and so on. And obviously, as we use HubSpot ourselves, we have the best tools available to set up the conversion paths. As marketers, and myself included, we're all guilty of relying on the same promotion tactics that work. Often, we get comfortable and develop the mindset of, well, if this worked last time, it should work this time. Working with new people can inject some creativity and fresh thinking into promotion. For example, we're currently working with a company who's using chatbots in their content promotion in a really innovative way. It's a great way for us to experiment, learn, and innovate. So let's talk about the co-marketing process. And before we get into the specific stages of the process, one thing to note is that there are many moving parts. It's a complex process, but one that is worth the time and effort. I'm going to break each step down as best as I can in an effort to make your understanding of it as easy as possible. So let's go. So here is the 8-step process which I've defined from my personal experience as a co-marketing manager here at HubSpot. As I said, we have 8 steps. Number 1, identifying suitable partners. 2, nurturing relationships. 3, brainstorming. 4, agreeing a plan. 5 and 6 are creation and execution. 7, we have review. And finally, we have lead share. So let's address each step one by one. Number 1 is identifying a suitable partner. This is one of the most important parts of co-marketing and arguably the most important. Here are some important things you need to remember when you're finding a co-marketing partner. You need to find a brand that is aligned with your brand, your value proposition, and your audience. It can be very tempting to just find the brand that has the biggest database, but it's important that you find the brand that fits and complements your brand as much as possible. Otherwise, you risk losing your brand credibility. Second, they have a large enough audience to generate a worthwhile amount of leads. If you already have a database of 10,000 leads and by collaborating with a brand that has an audience of only 1,000, the likelihood is that the partnership will take more energy and effort than what you'll get in return. So you would be very, very lucky to get 100 leads from someone who just has a database size of about 1,000. Find someone that you're excited to work with. You need to really believe in the brand you're working with and be excited to work with them. A positive experience usually has a more positive outcome. You need to work with someone who is seen as expert in whatever you're creating content on. You need to aim high when it comes to expertise. Just like people seek us at HubSpot out to collaborate on topics surrounding inbound marketing, if we want to run a co-marketing campaign on something like SEO or social media, we shortlist brands we'd like to work with into a wish list and work on getting an introduction to reach out to those brands. This means that your content will be of better quality and carry more credibility. So you may wonder, how can you come up with a list of co-marketing partners? One top tip I have here, and something we do regularly here at HubSpot, is we get into a room with marketers from different teams and make a list of the tools, products, and services we use, follow, or admire. And we put them into a Google Sheets doc, along with any details we have regarding contacts we have at those companies, etc. The last time we did this, we came away with a list of about 100 potential co-marketing partners. In addition to this, whenever I meet new marketers, I always make a point of asking them their top 3 products or tools they're using at the moment. And often that'll give me ideas for people that I can reach out to collaborate with. Before we move on to the second step, which is nurturing relationships, it's important to take a few measures to ensuring that you're nurturing the right relationships. Research here is absolutely key. So before you move towards nurturing relationships, you need to validate that they are the right fit for your brands. Steps we take here include reading through their website, blog, and ebooks. This will really give you a sense of how good they are at content creation and whether or not they align with your tone of voice. You'll want to check out who their competitors are, and actually sometimes you may even uncover better potential co-marketing partners. Third, you want to look at their social channels. This will give you a sense of their reach. If a brand only has 100 followers on their most popular social media channel, chances are that you aren't going to get hundreds of leads from them, nor are they going to suggest groundbreaking promotional tactics. You'll want to read their reviews. As I said earlier, you want to ensure that you're only working with the best, a credible, respected brand. So avoid working with brands who regularly get slated on review sites. That's not something you want to be associated with. Also ask, and I mentioned this already, but make sure that their persona aligns with yours. This is absolutely key. And finally, what kind of content could you realistically create with them? Putting time and effort into answering this question during the research phase is really, really important, and it will arm you with ideas going into your first call with them, and it'll just put you more in control of the conversation, which you'll see later. So tying all that research together, you should be able to evaluate your co-marketing partners using a 3-point measure: reach, relevance, and resonance. When we talk about reach, we're talking about how widely you think they'll be able to promote the content and what will your return be. Relevance, how relevant is the partner to your own brand and tone of voice? And resonance, can you co-create content that you think will resonate with both your audiences? With step 1 completed, it's now time to move on to step 2, nurturing the relationship and reaching out. As with all good relationships, it's very important to work on strengthening the relationship before you actually ask for anything. Nurturing relationships can take time. Other times it'll be very quick and all you'll have to do is send a quick email. It all depends on the relationship, but there are some steps you can take to make sure that you're nurturing relationships efficiently and effectively. The first thing that we usually do is to prioritize who we want to make contact with. And the easiest way to do this is to dig through LinkedIn and use that to figure out who exactly you need to be talking to within the brand that you want to work with. Number 2, follow these brands on social media and engage with them. By sharing their content, liking it, commenting on it regularly, you'll get into the subconscious of the person that's looking after the brand's social media, and they often have connections with whoever decides who to engage in collaborations with. Offer to guest post and invite them to guest post for you. This is a really smart way of testing the waters to see how easy a brand is to work with, as well as giving you an opportunity to evaluate the quality of their work. Find out if they're going to any of the same events. Find out if you're going to any of the same events. Marketing is an event-rich industry. So find out if the important contacts at these companies are attending any events that you're going to. Connecting casually over coffee or even wine, of course, is a great way to establish the beginnings of a solid working relationship. Then you're ready to reach out. So use email, social, or via an introduction if you can. In the next few slides, I'll bring you through some examples of what these correspondence should look like. Before I do that, though, it's time for another top tip. The pitch is always better when it offers an experience they would welcome. Pinpoint relevant, contextual, and valuable information. So the key here is, rather than talking about you when you reach out to them, talk about the value a co-marketing project would bring to them. So I'll just give you a second to have a look at this email while I take a drink of water. So here's an example of an email we would typically send to a prospective co-marketing partner. As you can see, we introduce ourselves and propose a campaign. Note the content of the email. We are communicating value to them. Companies are more likely to help you if they can see tangible results and a vision of how they can get similar results. When you introduce yourself and your company, point them to some of your successful campaigns, if you can boast a large one. Know their motivation and play to it. If you plan to reach out over LinkedIn, this next slide will give you an idea of a good way to approach reaching out. It's similar to a traditional email, just a little bit more brief. So firstly, you'll want to include an introduction, who you are and why they should care. Second of all, you want to communicate value, what's in it for them. And finally, you'll want to invite them to discuss further via phone or email. It's also possible to connect over social media. So let's take Twitter, for example. When it comes to Twitter, best practice is to save the details for the direct message. A simple tweet telling them that you have a proposal for them and request they follow you to receive a DM if that's needed can be effective. Alternatively, you could just ask them for their email address so you can send them the details. And here's a great example of an outreach tweet. So on to step 3, brainstorming. This step comes about after a successful step 2. During this step, you get on the phone to the prospective co-marketing partner to discuss potential collaboration, and hopefully you'll be looking a little bit happier than this little girl in the slide. Sometimes the calls go to plan, other times they reach a dead end. All your research up to this point, however, will ensure the best possible outcome for both of you. So you might ask, what else do I need to do to ensure the call goes as successfully as possible? And here's a quick checklist. First of all, you want to introduce yourself again. What is your role? Allow them to introduce themselves. Talk about past co-marketing initiatives and give more details around that large or successful co-marketing initiative that you might have mentioned in your initial email. Ask about projects they've done and really engage in active listening intently to what they're saying and asking interesting questions about it. Talk about the rules associated with co-marketing, and this will be different for everyone. Usually the rules revolve around volume, reach, and responsibilities. So for example, here at HubSpot, we would usually have 2,000 or 3,000 downloads as a hard goal that we need our co-marketing partners to hit before we actually collaborate with them. So it's important to just set those guardrails from the beginning so you're not leading anyone down a garden path. If they're happy, talk about what typical co-marketing projects look like. Brainstorm ideas. So make sure that you come armed with some ideas. So remember earlier I spoke about including that in all your research. If you come to a call with 4 or 5 great examples of content you can work on together, you're automatically in control of the conversation. And set an expectation. So this is just all around following up with a summary email, following up with a call or a scope of work, which I'll discuss in a few minutes. So take notes throughout the call and be sure to follow up in a timely manner with your notes and any actions or decisions made during the call. And one top tip here actually that I should have pulled out into a slide is that usually when I set up these co-marketing calls, I'll schedule 30 minutes for after the call, just so I have time dedicated to sitting down, putting together that follow-up email and just getting it done while it's fresh in my head. If there was a positive outcome, detail the next steps in that email. If there was a negative one or no scope for collaboration, it's still good to pop on an email to thank them for their time. You never know, someday they might be a good fit for something else. So, on to step 4, which is agreeing the plan. If there was a positive call outcome, step 4 will follow swiftly. During the call, you'll have agreed next steps. This could range from progressing forward right away to taking some time to think up some more campaign ideas. It all depends. There could be some back and forth over email after the call too in order to finalise plans. But how do you document the plan? We usually create a contract of sorts where we write all the details in a Google Doc. We call this a scope of work internally, and it includes everything from the campaign idea and details, roles and responsibilities, reach, dates, lead share details, and of course the all-important goals and numbers. It's only when all details in this document are agreed on by both partners that the project moves forward. This has the benefit of keeping everyone, including yourselves, accountable. And as an extra gift for watching this webinar, you can access your very own sample scope of work doc for your own use, and there's no form fill required. And we'll send this in our follow-up email, which will be sent out to you shortly after the webinar in the next few days. So just before I move on to the next slide, I just wanted to bring you through what a scope of work doc looks like. So this is just a sample one that I've created. So you can see here we've got the co-marketing partner's name here, Company X, very creative. We have the project overview, what the actual asset is, when we're going to do the project, what languages it's going to be available in. We have our goals here, so it's really, really important that you all have accountable goals here. Obviously, if you're just doing the offer or the campaign in one language, this will be a lot shorter. For this particular co-marketing campaign, we actually had an ebook and a webinar. So you can have 2 sections here for goals. We have information around co-branding. So the fact that all promotional assets will have both the co-marketing partner's brand and HubSpot's branding on it. We have information about lead sharing and the audience sizes. And then we have the all-important timelines. And this really is so useful when it comes to moving campaigns along and just holding people accountable and to getting stuff done on time. When things are written out like this and people have to agree to certain timelines when they're written in black and white, it just makes all the difference. So hopefully you'll find that useful. As I said, we will send it out to you, so you'll have your own version that you can tailor to your own needs. So after agreeing the scope of work, the fun begins and we proceed to creation and execution. So I've put step 5 and 6 together. Here at HubSpot, we like to manage all our campaigns using Trello, and I've actually created a Trello card that you can clone and use for your own campaigns. And again, we will send a link to that to you as well. So I'm just going to actually jump into that just so you can see what it looks like. So here it is. So you can see here we have a swim lane for our partners that we want to work with. We have, on each of the cards, we have information as to why we like them, what we could do with them, and whether or not we know anyone who works there. So that just, it's where we can put all our research. We have another swim lane for current relationships and contacts. So when we've been in touch with them and what the nature of that outreach was. And then we have a swim lane for projects in progress. So this could be for one campaign. So we have all the information and background to the campaign. We have a space for the agreement and the goal. We have the final assets. We have all the conversion assets that you need here, social media assets, and tracking URLs. So even if you don't like using Trello, I think everyone will find this useful in terms of having a list of everything they need to do to get a campaign actually off the ground. So probably the most important thing you need to consider in launching your co-marketing campaigns is to stay legal. Nobody likes to break the law. So including a disclaimer is a legal necessity. And here's an example of one. So you can see the text there. By submitting this form, you authorize HubSpot and Social Bakers to contact you with more content and information. You further authorize HubSpot to pass your information on to social bakers for these purposes. And you can actually add this text as a HTML module on your landing page. So again, very, very important. So just to tie all of this together, here's some typical steps we take when we're running co-marketing campaigns. Basically, all the steps we take from once the plan has been agreed right up to sign off. First of all, usually in the case of us here at HubSpot, the co-marketing partner will create content and send it to us for approval. We will then revert with amendments. This can take up a chunk of time, or if we've worked with the co-marketing partner many times in the past, it'll be relatively quick as they will know how we like to write and present our content. Then we send the content for design. We have a team here at HubSpot who can do all the design for us within a very specific brief. However, the co-marketing partner, if the co-marketing partner has a good design team, we will send over our style guide and complete the design, and they'll complete the design. It's very important that both partners meet halfway in terms of design. It needs to be truly co-branded, tying in elements of both partners' visual branding. And the design element includes not only the actual content asset itself, but also any social media assets or landing page images that should accompany the campaign. We'll then create the assets. Obviously, being HubSpot, we have the ideal conversion path tools at our disposal. So we take responsibility for the landing page, thank you page, kickback email, follow-up emails, and so on. We'll send all the assets to the partner for approval. Again, depending on how much we've worked with a partner in the past, this stage can be quick, or there could be some back and forth with correcting wording or phrasing. And then both partners sign off on the readiness of the campaign for launch. So I'm not saying that all these steps will work perfectly for you. The key is to play to each partner's strengths. So if you run a content agency, you may well have the resources in-house to create great content. Likewise, if you have a video team, you could totally come up with creative ways to intertwine video into your promotion. Or if you're an agency that specializes in paid media, you could come up with a brilliant plan that could influence the success of both partners. Remember that you're in this as a team, so don't be afraid to share knowledge and resources. Another absolute key part of co-marketing campaigns are tracking URLs. Remember, the co-marketing partner will be driving traffic to your landing page, so we're just using one landing page for this whole campaign. Therefore, it's very important that you track what traffic they're driving and what leads are created from that traffic. To do this, we create tracking URLs. You can create tracking URLs from within the reporting part of your tool. What's important here is that you use the other campaign source and then enter the co-marketing partner's name, just like I've done here. Then within the medium, you specify whatever medium the co-marketing partner will be using. So that's something that will be discussed during the planning phase. Usually we give our co-marketing partners 4 tracking URLs, one to use in their email, one to use in their blog, one to use in their social media, and then one to give to their sales team. But often the co-marketing partner will request more, especially if they're trying new types of ads for the first time, for example, or different types of mediums. So they'll often request more. Without the tracking URLs, you won't be able to find out how many leads the partner has generated, and you won't know how many leads they're entitled to when it comes to the all-important lead share. Then we get to launch day. Usually we will launch at the same time, and on launch day, it's important to have the following things checked off your list. Firstly, you'll want to do one last conversion path QA just to make sure that everything is linked properly and working. You'll want to have your launch blog post ready to go. So a launch post is basically a short blog post that summarizes the offer and presents the CTA. So often we will just take the copy from our landing page and beef it out a little bit and then put a CTA at the end. And these are usually the highest converting posts on our blog. And you'll want to have all your social media and your emails scheduled. Then you get to review. So almost there. There are a number of things you'll want to keep an eye on throughout the campaign promotion, and these include, firstly, views. How much is the landing page been viewed? If views are slow, you'll want to up the promotion. Just leave it a couple of days just so you can start to get some volume. You want to keep an eye on submissions and conversion rates. So what is the submission rate like? Is it in line with other campaigns? Is there anything you can do to change up the landing page to influence the submission rate? New contact rates. So how many of those submissions are new contacts? Remember, one of the main reasons for doing co-marketing is to grow your database. So you need to keep an eye on this metric. Check out your click-through rate on your ads. After a few days, check your paid ads just that you have running just to see if they're all performing well. You can switch off the poor performing ones or optimize them to increase their effectiveness, or just swap out images or add text or whatever you need to do. And then monitoring partner performance. So just because you've launched does not mean that your communication with the co-marketing partner ends. Check in regularly with updates as to their progress towards their goals, because this will help keep them more accountable and on track to hitting their goal. And check how their ads and their promotion is going. Share any learnings with them, because remember, joint success will lead to you getting more new leads and new contacts. So I've just put together this quick GIF to show you where you can get the information regarding leads by the partner from if you have your tracking URLs set up correctly. So I'll just wait till it scrolls back up to the top. So you can see here we're going down to other campaigns, clicking on other campaigns because we put other campaigns as the source. And we're clicking on the Social Bakers URL there, and that'll just tell us how many submissions and new contacts we've got from that co-marketing partner. So we just always preface our tracking URLs with HSCM, so that's just HubSpot co-marketing, just in case you're confused by that. So then we get to the next step, and probably the most fruitful step. Well, it is the most fruitful step. It's why you're doing co-marketing. So you might have gone through this webinar thinking, but Siobhan, how exactly do I share leads? Well, let me explain. At HubSpot, we have come to a one-to-one lead sharing agreement with the majority of our co-marketing partners, but you can come up with your own. This one-to-one lead sharing does confuse people, but really it isn't that hard. So just sit tight. Lead sharing on a one-to-one basis basically means that we will match whatever number of downloads the co-marketing partner generates. So just take a moment to digest that. So whatever number of downloads that the co-marketing partner generates, we will match that. So we'll have a pop quiz while I'm taking another drink of water. So the co-marketing partner generates 200 downloads. Going by the one-to-one lead share rationale, that means we will share how many leads with the co-marketing partner. So you can drop your answer into the live chat on YouTube, or you can tweet them to Inside HubSpot Marketing. Sorry, hashtag Inside HubSpot Marketing. I'll just take a drink. I think we've got a lot of shy people on the webinar today. So I'll give you the answer. It's 400. So we basically match the number of leads the partner generates. So if we see from our reporting tool that our co-marketing partner has generated 200 downloads, we will give them another 200 on top of that. So they'll get the 200 that they generated as well as another 200 that we would have generated. So hopefully that's clear. When you think about it, it's not that complicated. So usually we will define a period of about 4 weeks. 400, yes, Mark Harlan got the right answer. Fair play to you, Mark. Okay, so usually we'll define a period of 4 weeks for a promotion period. And after those 4 weeks, we'll do a lead share. If it's going really, really well, we'll extend that promotional period. It all depends. But to actually do the lead share, I'll just bring you through the steps. So first of all, we want to create a list with all the landing page submissions. So that's relatively straightforward. All you have to do is set up the rules in your list tool. And then you'll click export in the list view, as you can see here in the screenshot. You'll then want to choose the properties you want to export. This will be based on the form fields and is something that is usually decided on between you and the co-marketing partner during the planning phase. So you can see here we've got first name, last name, email, life cycle stage, company name, recent conversion, create date, but you can absolutely customize that to whatever you want. You'll then want to export the list, so that'll export in an Excel file, filter it to ensure that you give them the best quality leads and the amount of leads that they're entitled to within their requirements, and tidy up the Excel file and share it. And there you have it. I know I've thrown a lot of information at you, but I hope you've all picked up something from that webinar that you can go away and work on. In terms of takeaways, just co-marketing is absolute bomb for building databases quickly. Research and nurturing are absolutely key to building valuable and worthwhile relationships. Setting expectations via documented scope of works is essential, and hopefully you'll be able to take that template that I sent that you'll get in your follow-up email. And then finally, tracking URLs are essential for tracking the success of your campaigns and knowing how many leads you need to send on to your co-marketing partner. So that's all I have. I think we're going to open it to a few questions now.
Yeah, that was fantastic. Thanks so much for that brilliant presentation, Siobhan. I'm sure our listeners will agree that there was a huge amount of actionable and helpful insights they can go away with and apply to their own marketing efforts. And I think we have a lot of agencies who are watching today, and in particular for them, how they can approach different co-marketing potential partners and run their own co-marketing campaigns. So throughout the presentation, we've been getting a number of questions through Twitter on #InsideHubSpotMarketing. And if anyone has any questions, now is the time to ask. Feel free to tweet us and we'll do our best to get to it. We had one question from a lady called Anya Devan. She said, do you have any particular tips on approaching a potential co-marketing partner if you are a smaller company?
That's a really, really good question. What I would do is I would find similar companies of similar size. I think if you are a smaller company, it'll probably take a little bit longer to scale, but you'll scale much quicker if you join up with someone, rather than wasting your time trying to convince someone that's triple the size of you to engage in co-marketing. Some really good ways of doing this is, if you go to lots of events and you see, particularly startup events, you'll see a lot of people who are exhibiting there. If you approach them and see if they would be interested in doing something that would be quite low calorie, such as a quick webinar or even a really, really short guide to something. If you already have an ebook, for example, you might ask them if they would be willing to contribute to it, and maybe you could republish and repackage it with their branding on it. So just finding companies, I guess, of a similar size to you, who have similar goals to you, and utilizing that opportunity as a way to grow more quickly.
Yeah, brilliant. Another question we got was, how many co-marketing campaigns would you advise running per month?
Well, at the moment, we plan co-marketing campaigns on a quarterly cadence. We would run about 3 co-marketing campaigns per quarter for our growing regions, but that number would be greater globally. My advice is to anyone who's starting off to start slowly. Go with one first and refine and perfect the process that works for you. Give yourself 3 months from start to finish for your first co-marketing campaign, definitely, and you'll get quicker and more successful with each campaign. Okay,
so 3 months from start to finish for your first one.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, brilliant. Another question we have here is, so this is kind of more agency specific, because there's a few of them watching today. What advice would you give to agencies who want to run a co-marketing campaign for their clients?
Great question. I think that offering co-marketing could be offered as a premium agency service, definitely, given the potential ROI. I guess I'd have 4 pieces of advice here. First of all, practice running co-marketing campaigns for your own agency first, just so that you're familiar with everything that you need to do before you actually start offering it as a client service. Second, make sure that you have the industry knowledge and contacts to be able to work on meaningful relationships and solid co-marketing partners for your client, because that's really, like, if you don't have the right co-marketing partners for your clients, then you're not going to be able to run a good campaign. If you don't have an influencer, PR, or relationship building side to your business, you may need to look at working with a third party on this. But equally, the client could take more of an active role in the process too, connecting you with strong co-marketing partners and then leaving the execution to you. Thirdly, I wouldn't underestimate the amount of research you'll need to do for this, and work that into your price or your retainer. Just don't price for execution. And then finally, allow more time than you think you'll need to do your first co-marketing campaign. Because there are so many stakeholders involved in co-marketing, there will be many potential speed bumps along the way. And this ties back to the importance of having a really solid scope of work to begin with.
Brilliant. Yeah, absolutely. I think that makes a lot of sense for agencies. I think it's a very interesting to actually offer this as a premium service, to run co-marketing campaigns with them. Another question we have here, it kind of relates to the point that you made about targeting companies that have a similar buyer persona to you and running a co-marketing campaign with them. What would you say to people who may view those similar companies who have similar buyer personas as nearly competitors?
Yeah, another good question, and it's a question that I get asked a lot when I run this kind of training internally. I can see how that would be a concern for people. For example, we're working with Unbounce, who have a landing page product, and obviously HubSpot has a landing page product too. Are we not shooting ourselves in the foot? So I totally understand where that question is coming from. At the end of the day, you have to think about where this co-marketing content sits in the funnel. Usually it's at the top of the funnel. You're educating an audience on whatever topic you're writing about, rather than pushing a sales pitch at the bottom of the funnel. Yes, we're competing with Unbounce for the same kind of audience for sure, but together, if we're working on building people's education and knowledge around the topic of landing pages and conversion rates, it'll give both of us more of an opportunity to grow in the long run. With co-marketing, we are sharing our education power rather than battling for sales, if that makes sense. There's far more opportunity here, and one that totally overrides any kind of risk.
Brilliant. Yeah, absolutely. I'm just having a quick look at our live chat on the YouTube live video. First of all, fair play to Mark Harlan for guessing the number. We have a question here from Nathan Bracey. He's wondering if we can help him understand how many leads or form submissions were obtained through our co-marketing efforts. I'm not sure if we'll be able to give you exact numbers. Or do you have any idea how many submissions or leads a partner agency could expect to obtain? I suppose it would change per
Yeah, it depends
agency.
on the co-marketing partner, whoever you're partnering with, and it depends on the region. I mean, for our growing market regions in EMEA, like France and Germany, we would really rely on co-marketing to, drive up to 50 or 60% of our leads often, particularly at the beginning of the year. That's where we would get a lot of our co-marketing, a lot of our leads from. Globally, it would be a lot less. But equally, depending on our co-marketing partner, if we make a really good decision about collaborating with someone, we can, for any given month, we could get 70% of our leads from that, or we could get 10%. It really, really depends. In terms of what partner agencies would expect, I mean, I think rather than putting a number on it, you should be considering more like the percentage you can grow your database by. So whether that would be like 5% database growth per campaign. But until you actually run a campaign, you're not going to be able to really benchmark what your expectations might be. Yeah. Sorry, I feel like I kind of danced around that question a little bit, but it's hard to put a specific number for me to say that you'll be able to get like 100 leads from doing one co-marketing campaign. It just entirely depends on so many different things.
Yeah, absolutely. Nathan,
like even the content as well. Like if the content is not, like if that doesn't resonate, we had those 3 R's. It all depends.
Yeah, absolutely. Nathan, thanks very much for that question. That's all the questions that we have for today. Thanks very much again, Siobhan, for taking the time to bring us through that brilliant presentation and for answering our questions. And thanks to everyone who's been tuning in. This has been the 4th episode of the Inside HubSpot Marketing webinar series. As always, there's another one next month, and we'll be hosting our 5th episode in the series in the middle of August with our growth marketing manager, Cambria Davies. And with her, we're going to be speaking about some advanced techniques that HubSpot use to qualify our leads and how you can do that too. So make sure to keep an eye on the Inside HubSpot Marketing landing page and on the hashtag for more details. Siobhan, thanks very much again. And thanks very much, everybody, for tuning in. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.